Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the Allview X4 Soul Xtreme for a full review. You may also know this phone in your region as the Gionee A1 Plus. We're dealing with a 6-inch phablet. It's basically a metal giant meant for selfies with a front camera, and it also has a dual back camera as you can see here. It was launched in June this year under the Allview brand in Romania and is priced at around $420. It's a high mid-ranger with a premium build, and it's got one of the most impressive selfie cameras I've seen lately. Now, design-wise, it's rather massive. It weighs a huge 226 grams and measures a pretty reasonable 9.1 millimeters in thickness. And it's a 6-inch phablet, and if you want a comparison with the predecessor, the Allview X2 Xtreme, that one was 0.5 millimeters thicker but 20 grams lighter. It's got a good build, of course. It's made of metal, sturdy metal, although I have a feeling that the top and bottom feature a plastic lid on the antenna. Anyways, good build but quite heavy and gently curved back for extra ergonomics. Good feedback from the buttons on the side and the button at the front. Yes, they're still using physical home buttons flanked by capacitive buttons, which are pretty hard to figure out. They're just a dot and that's it. So good grip, pretty good build, but it's quite a big phone, so you should know what you're getting into before buying it, because it's going to be intensive on your hands and on your pocket. Now, on the display front, 2.5D glass, full lamination, 6-inch Full HD IPS LCD and Gorilla Glass 3 protection. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use the video app to play our usual test video and see what we're dealing with here. Now, as you can see, we have a Waves audio option, and by the way, you'll see in a minute that Waves audio is great on this handset. So, we also have a pop-up play option, but let's leave that aside and focus on the viewing experience. Very vivid colors, bright and crisp image, wide view angles, and a pretty okay contrast in my book. The pixels have an RGB stripes arrangement. You do not have to believe me, because we actually use the microscope to figure that stuff out. Okay, so we go here and try to look for our stuff. Here we go. That's the pixel arrangement. It's RGB stripes, as I told you, and then we get to the brightness test. We achieved 480 lux units, which is quite good, actually great. It beats the Galaxy A5 2017. It beats the Motorola Moto Z Play, not bad I would say, but scores below the Huawei Mate 9 and the HTC One A9. And if you want to tweak the experience further, you just go here, select display, and you got adaptive brightness, economical backlight, font style and size, sleep, LCD effect, and you can tweak your stuff to neutral, cool color or warm color. In general, it's best to leave it on default. Now let's go to the other hardware specs. So the CPU is a MediaTek Helio P25, an octa-core unit clocked at up to 2.5 GHz, so octa-core, and as you can tell, there's zero lag here, so you can start opening up a bunch of apps. Trust me, there will be zero lag, no problem whatsoever with the functioning of the phone, which is quite fluid. And we played the latest title. This one, Titanfall Assault, was launched on August 10th, so fresh, and also our benchmark game, Riptide GP Renegade, which we love. We've been playing it for a year now, launched in August last year. Mighty impressive graphics wise, so let's see how it can handle the heat on a 6-inch device with, let's say, high mid-range specs. Okay, here we go. You can already tell from the menu that it's a potent device, responds well to my movements. Tilt control is the way to go. Nice looking water, loving the shadows and lighting. Check out the water again. So, as far as gaming goes, I'm happy with the choice we're given here on the hardware front. And by the way, we're using that CPU we mentioned before, and it works in tandem with 4 GB of RAM. And let's see just how much storage we have here. Let's go and check it out. So CPU-Z tells us the following. First of all, it's loading a bit on the slow side, so come on. Okay, so I just told you before, the CPU MediaTek Helio P25 operating in tandem with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage. I would say that the hardware is quite good, and as you can see from before, lag free. Now let's go to the screenshots and see how we handle the ever important benchmarks. So we did quadrant, Antutu, the whole battery of tests. And in Antutu, we scored 65k points, which beats the Sony Xperia Z5 and the LG V10, but scores below the Xperia X Compact and also the Lenovo Vibe X3. Now, I should also mention that we did a quadrant, and here we beat the HTC 10 and Xperia XA1, but scored below the Galaxy S7 Edge. And in 3D Mark, things were, I would say, less impressive. So let's look up 3D Mark. This time we've taken the slingshot test. You can see it here, and just for the sake of comparison, this result is actually 6 times less than the Galaxy S8, so you can create a comparison in your mind, but it beats the Sony Xperia XA1 and also scores below the Galaxy A5 2017. So I would put this phone at the level of a 2015 flagship, maybe. Now you're wondering about the temperature. I'm sure there's no problem with overheating. 37.8 degrees tops Celsius when gaming, and when running benchmarks we go to 32.5 degrees Celsius, so no overheating. I have to say it again. Now, time to discuss the battery. So on the battery front, there is a 4550 mAh battery. Sounds pretty impressive, but again, it's a 6-incher, and it promises that with a 6-minute charge, with a 10-minute charge, you're given 4 hours of usage. Now, our actual experience was, to be honest, quite good, so I don't have many objections in the area of battery life. Okay, so we first did an HD video playback test. Let's see how that came out. Looking it up, I can already tell you it's been 13 hours and 42 minutes of continuous HD video playback, which is pretty impressive even for such a big phone. It could have been a power-hungry CPU. It's not the case here, so 13 hours and 42 minutes of continuous HD video playback. And that's only the video playback time, which actually beats the Galaxy S8 and the Google Pixel XL, so not bad, but scores below the Huawei P10 and the Galaxy S7 Edge. And you probably already saw and had a bit of a spoiler, the PC Mark result, also impressive. 11 hours, 37 minutes, it's great. It placed on the 9th spot all time. It beats other Allview models like the P6 Energy, P8 Energy Pro, but scores below the Galaxy A3 2017, which was a very impressive phone battery wise. Now the charging was a bit of a surprise. Usually this kind of phablet charges in about 3 hours. This one 2 hours and 2 minutes, not bad, and it actually juices up fast when it comes to the fast charging, something called ultra fast charging. So basically in 30 minutes you can get to 39%, and after 1 hour to 75%, which is very impressive. And another good thing about the phone is that you can use it as a power bank and charge other devices. It has reverse charging, always a good feature to have. Now we go here, we go to manage battery, we got power manager with its modes. There's normal mode, there's power saving mode, so you can actually tweak some of these features, activate or deactivate them, GPS and Bluetooth included. And there's also an extreme mode, so you can put everything in black and white and only use the basic features. There's other stuff you can do, like intelligent power saving in sleep mode, and also various levels of battery optimization. Overall, a solid battery, so not much to complain about, even a bit above my expectations. Okay, now it's time to talk about the acoustics. So this phone has the advantage of using Waves acoustic technology, and also guess what, it has stereo sound. So you get your sound from the bottom and you get your sound from the top for a stereo experience. You've probably heard about the Waves Max audio technology. Anyways, let's go to the music player and see what options it offers. Now we go to music and we got equalizer, and we got the sound modes like classic, dance, folk, heavy metal, jazz, pop and rock. I have to admit, I was expecting a bit more here. Now let's actually listen to some music. So you just saw that waves makes all the difference. I tapped it on and off, and without it things get a bit more clear, but with it things get more amplitude. So we have great bass, the bottom offers the bass, the top offers the mids and the highs. I would say everything is loud and clear, there is no distortion, no back vibration. I would keep the device at about 70%, so the regular loudness won't be too much for some people. So regular loudness is quite high. Okay, now we go to the tests we did on this device. As you can see, there's a bunch of them, so let's go through them. So 87.5 decibels down and at the front, so this area here, and at the top 84.2 decibels top, and then at the back we achieved 87 decibels. Those were achieved with our typical acoustic sample when playing games like Riptide GP Renegade, 96.2 decibels, which is mighty impressive, and it beats the Galaxy S8 and even the HTC U11. And by the way, I'm more happy with the stereophony offered by this phone compared to the one of the Sony Xperia XZ Premium, for example, or the HTC U11. Now the headphones bundled with the device, you saw them in the unboxing. They're rather typical if you've seen an Allview device. They have an okay volume, okay bass, and a pretty reasonable isolation of the noise. There's also FM radio here, and you should know that Waves really works, and the stereophony was mighty impressive. Now on the camera front, the core here is actually the front camera. It's a 20 megapixel shooter with pure cell technology, f2.0 aperture and 5 lenses, and also with a bokeh effect. The back camera is a dual camera. It includes a 13 megapixel sensor and a 5 megapixel sensor, a dual tone flash, and the main sensor is a Sony IMX258 seen on the OnePlus X and the Sony Xperia XA. Now the camera app starts up reasonably fast, and I would say that the focus speed was quite okay, picture taking also quite fast, and the options are typical if you've seen a Gionee or better said Allview handset before. We have quite a few of them, ranging from card scanner, mood photo, going to professional, smart scene, pic note, GIF and night. But the core one remains the one that lets you play with the aperture. As you can see here, you can play with it a lot, alternate between the foreground and the background, and create nifty bokeh effects, which by the way you can also create sort of with the front camera, but at a different level. You'll see that in a minute. So time to go to the gallery and see how the cameras behaved. We have a lot of shots, so let me start with those taken during the day. And first let me start with the alternation of the focus. So you can focus on the foreground or on the background, doing that bokeh thing. So once you focus on the background becomes blurred, and that's bokeh in a nutshell. And the phone handles it quite well. I've seen other phones claiming to have bokeh and not having it. This is, by the way, a festival. It happened in Romania. It's called Summerwell. Quite funky. We started with the selfies. At first not very impressed, but then as we took more, we got more and more impressed. The weak point of the phone is the indoor shots, so you should be sure to have plenty of light and plenty of space to take good shots. Otherwise, I have to say I'm pretty happy with the focus and the quality and texture of the skin in the selfies. So texture of the hair, of the skin and the background. For a 20 megapixel camera, not bad, maybe expecting a bit more, but as I said before, I took more selfies and those were okay. Here we zoomed onto the scene with a pretty good level of detail, I would say. This is the panorama, catching people even if they're moving a bit, not a bad result. And this is in the shade, by the way, in the shade of the forest, so I'm happy with the colors, the focus, the details and the zoom so far. Let's go back to the gallery. We have some more here. So you should always be careful with the indoor shots of this device. They get a bit shady and blurry, but in general, happy with the results. Play with the focus here a bit, some close-ups, more selfies, this time a bit better and more detailed and with better details and texture of the eyes and the skin and so forth. And those are the selfies I promised you, those that actually look nice. You can actually see each of the facial, let's say, hairs, and we even activated that portrait feature. As you can see, things behind me are blurred and the face is pretty clear. Excuse my expression, it was a very sunny day and no glasses. And that's how you take bokeh with the front camera. Color me happy with this option. And we also redid a bunch of close-ups with pretty amazing details. So overall it's quite a good camera, and you have here more examples. Sometimes it took us a while to get a proper macro, but in the end the results were quite satisfying. So I'm not sure if you've been watching our reviews, but this is actually part of a long series of phones, this Allview X4 Soul Xtreme. It's superior to the other X4 Soul devices. It can even fight the Huawei P10 Lite and the Asus Zenfone 3, and it even surpasses them in some areas like the selfies, for example. Now those are daytime captures. We have low light samples here, which for some reason were the watermark that they've been shot with this camera. For a mid-range phone that does not want to behave like a flagship, so as you know, for example, Sony said that its mid-rangers have flagship cameras. Well, Allview and Gionee did not say that, and in spite of that, they're performing quite well. For a mid-range phone, such achievements in low light conditions are quite okay. I'm talking about the brightness of the flash, the general brightness, the texture of the buildings, even the level of zoom, which, while not impressive, is reasonable. There is some blur here and there, yes, I know it, but in general, for a mid-range phone, not bad. And while the streetlight halos may seem a bit big at first, I've seen worse than that, so if you want to compare it to an Asus or Huawei mid-ranger, they should be pretty much on par, but don't compare it to a flagship because it clearly loses. Now, that's the photo in a nutshell. We're happy with it. Let's talk about the video. So we shot MP4, luckily, no 3GPP, I hate that format. Let's go back here in camera and see what we caught. So full HD MP4, 29 frames per second, 17 mega per second, and the microphone was actually quite good. So I'm going to turn down the volume a bit because there was a lot of YouTube copyright problems, bands, singing, music. So colors calibrated pretty well. Nice exposure change, some burnt areas, but considering how hot it was, it's quite okay. It may feel a bit trembling, this one, so rather poor stabilization at first, but you'll see then that we actually tested the stabilization and the results were quite good. So we're walking around on the street, not bad electronic stabilization. Yes, a bit shaky, but we are not losing focus. We are not experiencing blur, and there's also no problem with the object tracking. So overall, decent stabilization, good focus, and I'm happy with the details. Let's see one more video. So this little fellow here, dressed like a Lego critter, moving around, good texture, quality, lighting, details, whatever you want. A bit soft details in some of the objects, but other than that, not bad for a mid-range phone. Okay, sadly no other options like 60 frames per second or 4K are available here. And one more video. This one handles exposure change, and it's not bad. Okay, so pretty much praise so far, but things get a bit negative in low light capture. So as you can see, the frame rate has dropped, the bitrate has dropped, things get a bit grainy, and the zoom is rather poor, not very impressive. Not happy with the colors, the lighting, and the focus, so a bit unimpressive in low light conditions, and a bit framey, so to say. Things are moving in frames. So the conclusion, excellent selfie machine, pretty good with photos, close-ups, and some daytime video, but do not film at night. Now let's go to other things. You can play around with the browser, the pre-installed one, or use Chrome. If you want to access our website, it's gsndom.com. As you can see, not the fastest browser in the world, but in the end, the scrolling is smooth, at least. There's at least that. Hopefully. Still charging. Okay, so scroll is smooth, and we got this stock keyboard with swipe available. Now on the connectivity front, this is a dual SIM machine with a nano SIM and micro SIM card slot, 4G LTE category 6, GPS and GLONASS HD voice, and guess what? It even has hidden somewhere, don't ask me where, an infrared emitter. And if you don't believe me, this shows you the Peel remote app, allows you to control TV sets, set-top boxes, air conditioners, and so forth. So yes, we have an infrared emitter on board. Other connectivity options include the Bluetooth 4.0, Wi-Fi ABGN, Wi-Fi Direct. There's a micro USB 2.0 port at the bottom, sadly, no USB Type-C. And the calls are pretty loud and clear. We also have options like blacklist and speed dial. Speaking of speed, we also did a speed test, and let's see how that came out. So we go here, and these are the results. Not very impressive. So 36 mega per second downloads on 4G, 30 mega per second uploads, and on Wi-Fi 72 and 25, expecting a bit more, but within normal limits, not breaking any records for sure. Now on the software front, this is Android Nougat with what's called Visual UI 1.2 on top. So basically you got your multitasking here as a carousel, you got some of the applications which let you use split screen. Actually there's only a few of them. If you double press it, you can alternate between apps, as you guys are doing right now. So double pressing is alternating. Let's see if this one, nope, doesn't work in split screen, but the browser, it actually does. So one of these apps should work in split screen and you can watch a video and browse the web at the same time. Now other things, keep the home screen pressed and you're bound to trigger the apps, widgets and effects. These are the widgets. Some of them come from Allview, some of them are stock, and these are the effects. And the lock screen is an interesting animal. It displays inspiring quotes every day and they change every time. And if you swipe up on the home screen, you get your launcher menu with a theme, desktop, search, wallpaper and settings, system settings. And another interesting tweak from Allview is the fact that swiping down equals notifications, swiping up equals something like the control center from iOS maybe. Basically quick settings, and that's about it. Plus a super screenshot with 3 viable options. So lots of things here that are different from regular Android phones. And these are the options available here. We got the special features which are pretty niftily explained. You can actually learn a lot from this area. Anyways, connectivity, display, do not disturb, security, system updates, and stuff like smart gestures. Wow, I just cleaned up everything. So let's go back. Smart gestures are available here. There's the edge bar, which can be tweaked and is very easy to trigger. You just swipe to the side on this home button here. It appears, it mimics a bit of the Samsung Galaxy S Edge experience, and that's about it. Go back to the settings again and find things like suspend options, skylight, glove patterns, reverse charge via OTG, and finally there's security here. We got a fingerprint scanner and also a panic button feature, which is something you don't see every day on modern phones. Now the fingerprint scanner is here, it's been set up already, and I just had an incorrect pin. Okay, fingerprint 1, you can save it, you can rename it, and let's see how we can make the screen more easily secured. Okay, so security password, let's see if you can unlock it like this. As you just saw, not from the first attempt, rather from the second. It may seem fast now, but every once in a while the animation is a bit slower, but overall I would say it's pretty decent when it comes to the authentication. Now, as far as the pre-installed apps go, I counted them all. There's 44 of them. There's stuff like Bitdefender Mobile Security. We got the child mode here. We got your notes, pill remote, there's Snapseed for photo editing, theme park, and weather is available here as well. That's it in a nutshell. Other things worth mentioning, well, we have a trash for the gallery. You can double tap this button to alternate between the last 2 applications, and we got a system manager that's quite capable. Now it's time for the verdict, folks. Some people call this phone the Allview X4 Soul Xtreme, some call it the Gionee A1 Plus or something like that. And we have the pros and cons here. On the pro side, we got a solid build, pretty bright display, I would say okay-ish performance, a great battery. That Waves acoustic really impressed me. Solid selfies, good daytime camera, nice. It's nice the fact that we have infrared emitter. There's Android Nougat and okay bokeh effects. On the cons, it's a very heavy phone. The GPU is a bit lower end than expected. Low light video capture is mediocre, the format is generic, and connectivity should be faster. Plus it's pricey, it's got a slow fingerprint scanner and micro USB. In this day and age, nope. In the end, this is probably the best selfie phone I've tested in 2017, and I do mean that. I feel the need to show you my selfies again because I was actually very happy with them, and they're very detailed. You can actually go very in depth. It's a 20 megapixel camera and I've never seen facial hairs so detailed. So it's good for selfies, good for gaming because of the format, and it's got a big battery, plus it charges your other phone. So movies, gaming, casually, and selfies, that's the core. And for that, for $420, I would say it does the job fine. You can even fight the Sony Xperia XA1 Ultra easily, although it doesn't stabilize as good as that phone. So that's it from gsn.com. This has been the presentation of the Allview X4 Soul Xtreme, which is also known as another Gionee handset. Bye bye.